Mondays. It's just one days of the week that everyone loves to hate and dread. That one day just signaled the potentially of a long, stressful day of work, and in the case of school, boring classes in the span of 8 hours for the next 5 days. It was all over on Friday, but for a small group of kids, Monday was anything but boring. After having short kissing sections the previous night, Lincoln and Ronaldo wound up snuggling to each other's embrace as sleep overcame them. Sunlight started to pierce through the blinds of the Hispanic girl's room, shining into Lincoln's eyes. He grumbled a little bit as his brain started the process of waking up the rest of his body. Taking one of his hands, he wiped the dead skin away from his eyes before shielding them a little from the sunlight that crept through the window. Shifting a bit, he noticed that he couldn't move his right arm as freely, as a single glance to him was all it took to remind him of last night. Ronaldo's face was emotionless as she continued to sleep soundly. Him attempting to move his arm, it didn't seem to jar her from her slumber. The only thing she did was to roll onto her left side, and the way she seemed to peace, and now her hair laid delicately on her shoulders, made the boy's heart flutter. However, alarms were starting to ring in his head as he looked at the clock. It was past 7, and they both should have been up by now. As such, there was a high chance that someone was going to question where he was and tell Ronaldo to wake up. But the main problem was that preventing him from trying to sneak out of the room, as he wanted to be next to his girlfriend when he awoke. And yet the universe had its ways of keeping that dream from happening. A knock on the door then drew Lincoln's attention, as well as bringing the tomboy from unconsciousness. "Ronaldo, you better be awake in there. It's almost time for school," Maria yelled. Ronaldo then rubbed her sleep from her eyes before grasping at the fact that Lincoln was still in her room. To make it worse, the doorknob was turning. "Oh crap, oh crap, oh crap," both kids said internally. Before Maria could fully see into her daughter's room, Ronnie Ann grabbed Lincoln and flung him to the side of the bed, facing the wall to make a loud clump in the process. Maria poked her head in. "What was that?" "I accidentally dropped one of my shoes," Ronnie Ann replied with a nervous smile, picking up one of her black sandals. "Well, at least you're awake. Have you seen Lincoln?" "Oh, he's in the bathroom." "Yeah, the bathroom." "You sure? I didn't hear any water running in there." "Yeah, he's there," Ronaldo said quickly, hoping the mother would buy into the fib. Maria gouged at her daughter's face intensely, wondering if she was hiding something. After a few tense moments, she shrugged. "Okay." Ronaldo gave a low sigh. "But I'm going to check on him." The 11-year-old's eyes became the sauce of dinner plates. "Dang it," they both whispered. Lincoln looked up at the ceiling, noticing a vent grate. He could still up the fit in the vents if this. Technically, his old home was a little difficulty, but then again the vents in the loud house were abnormally large. The Santiago vents, on the other hand, looked smaller and slimmer. He could still fit, but it would be uncomfortable. "Give me a boost." "What?" "Just help me up to the vent." Ronaldo then looked up. Before Lincoln grabbed her shoulders, she pushed him up to the vent. She didn't think he'd be able to fit there, but apparently the vents of the house were larger than she originally thought. Lincoln made a series of dents and thumps as he crawled through the ventilation. In the hall, Maria was about to knock on the door when she heard the noises. The mother groaned in annoyance. "Marcus, we got rats again!" An irate growl came from the master bedroom in response. "Mom, I can't find my pizza delivery shirt," Bobby called out. "It's still in the wash, Roberto. It'll be clean by the time you get back." A loud thump was heard in the bathroom. "What the hell?" the nurse then asked in her native tongue. She rapped the door a bit harder than she intended to. "Lincoln, you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine. I just slipped on the rug," the chip-toothed male replied. He actually fell from the vent. It was thankful the rug had somewhat cushioned his otherwise harsh impact with the tile. Crawling through the vents, he accumulated a lot of dust, prompting him to run to the shower. As Lincoln washed himself clean, he couldn't help but fidget a bit every so often. A knot was turning in his stomach. It wasn't from the fact that he and Ronnie Ann had almost been caught in bed with each other, but for that day that lied ahead of him. If he remembered the comments of the video correctly, some indicated that they knew everyone in the video. Lincoln thought of his best friend, who jumped at the last moment to prevent him from being overwhelmed. The ashen-haired boy was willing to bet his entire Ace-Savvy collection that Clyde's dads were less than pleased that their boy had gone into a scuffle. Even more enforced by the fact that Clyde hadn't contacted them at all since they parted ways, but he was sure they'd meet at school, or at least on their way towards it. Turning back the doorknob to the faucet tub, he ended his shower and started preparing himself for what looked to be a particularly interesting Monday, as best as he could. Instead of doing their skateboard skating duo stunt like they did last time, the young couple opted to walk to school this time around. Plus, Lincoln didn't want to lose his breakfast again. They met Clyde on the short distance away from his house, the trio walking together to a place that seemed torturous and a prison boredom, yet the mood for each other of them wasn't full of dread, but anticipation. "So, what do you guys think is going to happen?" Lincoln asked. Ronaldo replied. "At school, I think it's safe to say everyone at that point saw that video." "I'm surprised it wasn't on the news this morning," Clyde responded. "Speaking of which, anything happened after you got home last night?" Lincoln asked. "Yeah, I meant to call you, but I got in a stern lecture from my dads about getting into that fight." Clyde frowned at the ground. "But they were proud of me for looking out for you." "I said this yesterday, and I'll say it again. You're a true friend, Clyde." Lincoln wrapped his hand around Clyde's shoulder. "Aw, thanks, buddy." Ronaldo made a gagging motion. "Ugh, don't get soft on me, lamos." Then she held her hand up, making the boys flinch. She then smirked and dabbed both lightly on the shoulder. Two of them flinching. "And to answer your question, Lincoln, you'll probably be treated the same way when I first became the school's tough girl." "You mean all the time you," Clyde asked, "send the two girls to the office school nurse because they kept picking on me back in the 4th grade? Yeah, I got grounded for a few days, but it was worth it." "Wait, I thought the girls got sent to the hospital," Lincoln stated. "Oh, they did because they had to pop their shoulder back in place. The other one got away with it, just a few teeth missing. Since then, everyone learned to fear for me, and no one ever dared to cross me, unless they want to meet Mr. Fist and his wife Knuckles Sandwich. Speaking of which, I wonder how Chandler likes having his mouth wired shut." Ronaldo gave a small chuckle. "I don't think I hit him that hard." "Lincoln, his face was swollen. He had a black eye, and I think I saw a few of his teeth on the ground," Clyde pointed out. "Okay, I guess it was bad, but I don't want people seeing that. I even cringed when I saw my own face while I was angry. It was just a fit of rage, and I don't want to be seen as that some brute." "You might be anyways, but you are my brute," Ronaldo said, making Lincoln's cheeks flush red. "On the bright side, some may even thank you for doing it. Some of the commentators actually worship you," the nerdy child added. "Don't forget yourself, Clyde. You had the guts to take Chandler of all people," the tomboy stated. Clyde rubbed the back of his head nervously. I guess." The school was coming into view with the two boys growing steadily nervous. They could see a few students hanging around outside, people who were complete strangers. Once they reached the front door, Clyde and Lincoln were practically sweating bullets at this point. Ronaldo poked her head in, noting the massive student population. She then looked back to the nervous stacks standing behind her. "Could you two stop acting so scared? There's nothing to be afraid of. Just act like you usually do. I'm heading to my class." Without another word, she entered the building. "Well, Clyde, here goes nothing," Lincoln told him. The two entered the school, no one giving them a glance. It wasn't until they started walking down the hall to their lockers they caught students staring and whispering behind their backs. They didn't catch a few girls that weren't familiar, giving them with flirtatious looks, which crept out of Clyde and made Lincoln feel uneasy. Thankfully, a familiar face showed up. "Dudes, guess what's happening?" Rusty asked all giddy-like. I'm okay, I guess." "You just want to say, guys, especially you, Lincoln, I never expected you to totally wipe the floor with Chandler at his pose. I can't believe you actually broke that tree branch. How did you even carry it? It must have been so heavy." Lincoln started. "Hey, Lincoln, just want to say you kiddos for what happened yesterday. I had a feeling that it was a matter of time," Liam stated as he showed up. "Guess you were right on that part," the white-haired boy muttered. "Hey, Lincoln," Kat said as she and a small group of girls passed the boys, while the other girls giving small giggles. Rusty gave a wide grin as he elbowed Lincoln. "Looks like someone just been quite the ladies' man." "For real this time, unlike the whole girl guru incident," Liam added. "Why don't you guys have to remind me of that?" Lincoln replied. His movement stopped when he accidentally bumped into someone, causing him to stumble back. Oh, I'm so sorry, boy, Jordan. No, it's my fault. Sorry, Lincoln, Jordan said before running off. Okay, that was weird, Clyde stated. Always just worried about you setting off. Lots of kids have been talking about it, and they're afraid you might blow up on them, the short redheaded explained. Blow up? Okay, look, guys, it takes a lot for me to get like that. How was I even seeing that video? I just don't want to get pushed over the edge anymore. It's already happened twice. Wait, twice? Rusty asked. I think I said it too much. Lincoln mentally facepalmed. Never mind it. I need to go to my locker, guys. He took off down the hall. See ya, Lincoln, Rusty shouted. Lincoln gave a small sigh as he finally made it to his locker. Fumbling with the combination, he opened the door and shoved his bag into the storage unit. Grabbing a few books he needed for his homeroom, he closed it on foot before heading off to class. More students had waved at him. As he passed them, some gave him a wide berth, and the few girls said shyly, "Hi" to him. Now, this was quite the opposite as opposed to last week. They were the laughing stock of the whole school for the third time. It was as if his past misdeeds had been forgiven, and as the new popular kid at school. The chip-toothed boy who used to be like being made a mockery of, receiving some praise from a student body. It almost felt like an alien to him. Did he get some praise during the whole girl guru phase? But it didn't last that long, and he was still being teased a few times, physically abused by both genders for a week, and even after the pie-to-the-face business deal, he grew a thick skin from the constant teasing. But the boy actually hadn't done anything to stop it. Perhaps that was why he was easy target for school bullies, and why he was starting to have these rage episodes. Lincoln told himself that if he wasn't going to let the words and harassment get to him, but he had been completely unaware that his anger was pooling up until he felt he couldn't take it anymore. The seal had been blasted open last Thursday, and Lincoln wasn't so sure when the last time he would slip up into his anger-driven self. If at all, he had just hoped that it would get on his nerves anytime soon. As Lincoln walked to class, he noticed one of the boys he fought yesterday getting grilled by other students. The boy in question was the one who ended up getting stacked in nuts. As much as to embarrassment, it was even worse since the whole thing was recorded. As someone spotted a meme of the whole ordeal. The class started giving Lincoln a passing glance, and a few class clown giving a nervous look at Lincoln. The white-haired boy gave a small frown in return before taking his seat. The class carried on as usual, drowning the boring subject of math, history, and science. When the bell rang for lunch, everyone was ready for break and enjoy a decent meal and playtime. Lincoln, mind if I talk for you for a minute? Angie's called as she was about to leave. A chorus of oohs ran throughout the class. The chip-toothed boy fidgeted a little in embarrassment. It's not kind of that talk class. The rest of you go to lunch, the teacher ordered. The others didn't have to be told twice. Clyde wanted to stick around, but he wasn't the one to disrespect the teacher's wishes. Am I in trouble for anything? Lincoln stammered. No. It's quite the opposite. Have a seat, please. Lincoln sat at one of the desks in the front row. Now, I'm sure you're quite aware of a certain incident being spread around the internet lately. You mean the video where I beat up Chandler at the park? Yes. Now, I am sure some of the students have given you praise for what you did, but honestly, I'm just shocked that someone like you had a lot of aggression. You haven't been much of a problem student, Lincoln. You've never gotten in any fights at school, and while you have on more than one occasion nearly failed or caused some unrest here, you were responsible enough to make up your misdeeds. The last thing from anyone expected for you was to beat up 5 students, even if they deserved it. Honestly, I don't know what those boys were thinking tossing that little girl like that, but what I want to know from you, Lincoln, is, are you okay? Lamo twisted his thumbs and thought of how to answer that question. I guess so. I mean, I didn't want to end up fighting them, but after what they did to my little sister, I just lost it, you know? Ah, so that's your sister. I thought I remembered seeing her before. Is she doing okay? How's life at home? Lana's doing okay for the most part. As for home, Lincoln then couldn't know what to tell Miss Johnson. What was really going on with his home life? He could earn a quick call to the police, and he did not want this to happen to his family. It also seemed like Lincoln went back on his word that just ratted his family out for the sake of revenge. Something he absolutely not to do. Home is nice. You sure? Angie's questioned. Lincoln gave a small nod. I'm sure. Alright then, but I should warn you, Lincoln. If you end up getting a fight on school grounds, both parties will end up being suspended. I know it's typically one or the two that start but fighting is prohibited for a good reason. Understand? Yes, Miss Johnson. And one more thing. Hey, you're probably wondering what became of Chandler. Well, his parents informed me that he's in the hospital to get surgery for his mouth. They said you fractured his jaw. They didn't sound very pleased, but then again, I doubt any parent, if their child got seriously hurt. Added to that, I don't want to cause any alarm for you, but I overheard the father thinking about pressing charges. Lincoln's face went pale. Charges? Why? I honestly don't know. I was talking to Chandler's mother, but I heard his father in the background talking about it. Usually in circumstances like this, I guess the charge would be on assault and battery. That means threatening someone and physically harming them. But I doubt this case would follow through, since there's not a proof for what you did was an act of self-defense. How do you know much on this? I'm not exactly familiar with laws, aside from knowing that murder is wrong. That was the half-truth, considering what he researched a few days ago. Well, I'll just say that I had a troubling relationship a few years ago that led to a nasty divorce. Angie didn't like being brought up that asshole ex of a husband she used to have, and he could rot in jail for all she cared. The only saving grace she had was a child from him, who that bastard didn't think was important enough to support. Lincoln sank in his chair. Why can't I catch a break? It's not my fault he had it coming. I know, Lincoln, but like I said, there's enough evidence floating around that this won't become a case. If it does, I'm willing to bet everyone who saw it will testify it on your behalf. You think so? Positive, but don't fret on it too much. Now run along to lunch now. Angie smiled. Thanks, Miss Johnson, Lincoln replied, before walking out the classroom. When he was out of earshot, Angie took out her phone and pulled up iTube. She then flipped over until she saw a particular video and pressed play. Punching sounds and cries of pain rang out from the small speaker. Jeez, I hope to God he doesn't get in trouble over this. So, what did Miss Johnson want? Clyde asked, munching on his sloppy joe. She just wanted to know if I was all right, Lincoln replied, slowly picked on his food. Then why did it look like your pet horse died? Liam asked. It's a bit personal. Come on, Lincoln. You could trust us. We're your friends after all, Rusty added. Lincoln seemed hesitant to relay the information to the multiple people, and there were only a few select he could trust that wouldn't flip out much over what he say. Sorry, Rusty. Don't take this personally, but I just can't really trust you, Liam, or Zach with this kind of information. Oh, come on. Haven't we always had your back? The taller boy asked. Yeah, you bailed me out from the last time this tense situation a few times. Lincoln then formed a frown. But keep in mind I'm still upset at you guys for banishing me to the sticky table. What my sister did was not my fault. She didn't stay in our school for long before she got her teaching job back. I thought we apologized for that, Zach replied. You did, but that doesn't mean I completely forgive you. I just don't want to say anything since then about it. I'm sorry, guys, but this isn't something I can't share with you, the white-haired boy replied. Well, if you feel like you can't trust us, then we won't let that stop you. Come on, fellas, Liam said, as the other two boys went to sit elsewhere. Did you really have to do that? Clyde asked. I'll be honest with you, Clyde. Out of all the friends I have, you're the only person who's been at my side through thick and thin, no matter how bad things have gotten. The others, the whole sticky table incident, was just an example. I know I saw Rusty and Zach in the crowd threw pies at me. Liam wasn't there since my advice actually worked for him, but he's like the other two. Yeah, you've had your faults in the department too, but both of us we were both stuck to each other like glue. I'm not as close to Rusty, Liam, and Zach like I am with you and Ronnie Ann, and sometimes I feel like they might shun over me again, something that isn't my fault. So I can't entrust them not to do something crazy with what I'm about to tell you. You know I've always had my ear out for you, buddy. What's the deal? Aside from asking him about my health, Miss Johnson also told me that Chandler had to get surgery for his mouth. Clyde went eye-wide. Wow, guess Ronnie Ann's guess was just about his mouth being wired shut isn't crazy. That's not the bad part, though. His dad was thinking about prosecuting me. This let out the boy gasp. What? On assault? Battery? First-degree assault? Attempted murder? Lincoln, you're too young to go to jail. Lincoln covered Clyde's mouth with a hand. Clyde, calm down. You're making a scene. Indeed, a few nearby students were looking at him, but they went back to eating when they stopped. Miss Johnson said it might be assault and battery, but she also said that there was too much evidence against it. No case would be made of. So she said it could be ruled as self-defense. Oh, so that makes me a little better, the African-American replied in a muffled tone. He moved to Lincoln's hand away. But just so you know, buddy, if they try to bring you in, you've got me as a witness, as I was there after all. True, Lincoln said, rested his head on his arms. I just feel like I can't catch a break since this whole thing started. Well, at least no one is laughing at us this time. Several people have been complimenting me since we got here, and at least a few girls have. Clyde then said the last part in a nervous tone. Even Girl Jordan said hi to me in a nervous tone. Yeah, but we've gotten that before and it came crashing down on us with the span of a few days. I know the whole Girl Guru incident was a big stain of our social standing, but you gotta look at the future, Lincoln. Maybe this time things will be different. It could be like Ronnie Ann said, no one ever think to mess with you again, or out of fear or love. I believe a wise man once said, it's better to be feared than loved if you can't have both. Clyde, I said, hoping to cheer up his friend. But I don't want to be feared. Yeah, I want people to stop messing with me, but I don't want them to be afraid of me. Ronalda was thinking like that when she first saw the video. Ronalda? That's her real name? Yeah, me and Ronnie Ann got a bit closer, I guess. Lincoln shifted his head to look at Ronnie Ann, who was standing at another table chatting with her friends. Clyde then looked at the Hispanic girl, then to the ashen-haired child. Aha, I see, he smirked, but then gave a low sigh. If only I could get Lori to feel the same way. Lincoln gave a low groan. He liked Clyde, but if he had to admit, his obsession over his older sister was quite annoying at times. I'm not sure if Dr. Lopez is helping in that regard, and keep in mind, she helped me locked outside. Right, so sorry. So, what were you saying about Ronnie Ann? You won't believe this, but she was actually worried about what happened with Chandler. I might end up doing it to her if we weren't in the way we were now. I told her that I wouldn't dream of hurting her, but I could see her point. Even if I do find that notion hard to believe, but since you have fought Lynn as to a stalemate, Clyde cringed. The African-American was always thought of that scenario where Lincoln always ended up beating Ronnie Ann to a pulp due to snapping, which may cause Bobby to break up with Lori, although the teen thought it wasn't good for her anyways. In turn, Lori might do something horrible to Lincoln, which Clyde thinks he might land and Lincoln into a body cast, or disfigured or worse. Clyde then shook his head in a way to abhorring thoughts. She just needed to come up with something more lighthearted. So, Lincoln looked at him confused. What? Did you and Ronnie Ann plan a date yet? At the atmosphere of the Royal Woods High was just like any other day would imagine the average high school. Always full of students, groups talking, blocking precious space in the hall, and other forcing students to squeeze through, girls gossiping, and of course, downing about how much your classes suck. In the midst of all the chaos, Lori was walking around the building looking for a particular person. She spotted two of her sisters either talking with their friends or cramming around into something in their locker. In Luna's case, it was her comedically stuffing her locker, so it stayed closed. Lori couldn't help but smile a little envious at her sibling. It wasn't about her social groups, as a teen herself wasn't affiliated with many, but it was the fact that they've made some good progress on their gifts. Lenny was finished with her bed frame, and all she needed was a new mattress and sheets. The blonde ordered some special Ace-savvy bedding once she was finished with the frame, so all she needed to do was wait for it. As for Luna, she made some good progress on her song with Luann's help. It was both rocking and comedic at times, highlighting the good times the sisters had with Lincoln, as well as the bad, but at the end, reminding them of no matter what happened, they were still a family. However, the musicians still had a bit of work to work on as far as the tempo and rhythm. As for Lori, she didn't have any ideas, and Bobby was still being rather hesitant to help. Lori understood the reasoning behind it, since it was revealed that Lincoln had been staying with the Santiagos for the past few days. Still, she needed some serious aid and find a way to get Lincoln to forgive her, practically since she had been rather harsh to him on the past. Lori promised her siblings that they wouldn't let the Santiagos know where they have been sheltering Lincoln, but she needed to find out where fate stood between her and her Boo Boo Bear. Since the two teens had passed same lunch, it was easy to find him in the cafeteria. Lori wouldn't risk calling him since he'd be likely making an excuse to dodge the question. The phone-obsessed teen found her boyfriend, sitting a couple of friends with her he had in class. Strolling over to the table, Lori cleared her throat to make the presence known. "Roberto, we need to talk." The other guys looked at Bobby for a second before suppressing laughter. "Looks like someone's in the doghouse." "Ha ha, very funny," the Hispanic boy muttered, before Lori took him out of the lunchroom and to a quiet part of the school. "So, what did you want to talk about?" "Bobby, I'm going to be straight with you. I know, my whole family knows you guys have been taking care of Lincoln since he ran off." Roberto's eyes widened. "How did you figure that out? You're not going to come and take him home, are you?" He pointed at her accusingly. Lori shook her head as she raised her hands in defense. No. None of us want to risk driving him away any further than we already did. I just want to thank you for taking care of him, though." "Well, you're welcome, but..." "Roberto, I know what you're going to say," Lori said with a sad look. "I'm pretty sure Lincoln told you everything about what happened. Even before the whole bad luck phase, I was angry at you when the twins first saw Lincoln and Ronnie Ann together. I asked you directly if you had seen him, and you lied to me, but I realized I couldn't be mad at you because I was still angry at myself. I helped him drive away, only for my brother out of my life, because I didn't pay any attention to his feelings. He even got you to spend time with me after I was feeling neglected. And what do I have to show in return?" The blonde was now at the verge of tears. "So I just want to let you know, if you want to break up with me, I won't hold it against you." "Strained," Roberto finally replied, his arms crossed. Lori looked at him and very confused by this. "I was going to say strained, Lori. When Lincoln first told me everything, I was about to call you. However, he stopped me from doing so because he didn't want to be found. So I had to keep up with the impression of being your boyfriend because I love Lincoln, like a little brother I never had. I was hesitant to help you since you treated him poorly, but I've seen how desperate you were to ask me and help bring him back, which tells me that you seriously regret everything that's happened and what to make amends, right?" The blonde nodded. "Honestly, I don't know what to do right now. I could get something Ace Savvy related, but nothing could beat Lenny's homemade bed at that topic. My other siblings are busy with their own ideas, so I don't want to interrupt them. I know Lincoln likes video games, and I think that might be too cheap in that aspect. I'll be honest, Lori, I don't know much about Lincoln either since he spends most of his time with Ronnie Ann. And I'm busy with work, I guess." Roberto rubbed the back of his head. "Probably after school, we can go to the mall to find something he may like. But know this, Lori, I may not have officially broke up with you since you're taking this seriously, but I'm not going to refer to you as babe until the whole thing is fixed. I'm still disappointed what you actually did. Something was wrong. So you can count yourself lucky that Lincoln refused to spill the beans to the cops. Please don't remind me. I had that bad dream about everyone being put into a foster care after I heard the news. I may be 17, but my birthday is still long ways off before I'm illegally classified as an adult. There's no way I'll be able to look after the house and my whole family with the job I have right now. If that's any consideration, do you know that Lincoln's starting to open up again, right? Yeah, I saw the video of him beating some kid senseless. I'll admit I was annoyed at Clyde's constant stalking me, but I'll give him props for looking for my brother." The two sat in silence for a moment before the bell rang, meaning that their lunch period has come to an end. "Well, I guess I'll see you around, Lori. Bye." Lori watched him walk away for a moment, leaving her to stew in her thoughts. Good news is that Bobby didn't entirely break up their relationship, despite it hanging around on the thin thread, but she still had no clue how to make amends with Lincoln. Lori remembered the times that he helped her when it came to a relationship with Roberto, as well as the first time he forced him to come on a double date so they can make up to Ronnie Ann. Bobby did say he was spending lots of time with her, perhaps. Maybe they were getting closer as well. Lori's eyes widened as the gears of her head were turning, the thought of formulating into a possible plan. She gave a small smile at the ceiling before heading to her next class. Lincoln had helped her improve the relationship in the past, and so who was to say she couldn't return the favor?